Welcome back to the Firearm Channel, YouTube. This is a Bren. This is a cookie. If neither of those appeal to you, then what the fuck are you doing here? Okay, anyway. As you can see, Bren is currently a pile of parts in front of me, and the reason for that is long and complicated, and I'm not going into it. So if you want to know, don't ask. I'm just not going to tell you. Anyway, while we have it disassembled, I would like to show you a feature of the Bren that is carried over into modern assault weapons. Yes, this is going to take a few seconds. Go look at porn while I'm doing this. I guarantee it's more interesting than watching me turn a screwdriver. Infinitely more interesting. Except for you, Wallaberry, you're not allowed to look at porn. There we go. Okay, now as you probably noticed, the buttstock launched forward. Now as you probably noticed, a Jesus part just fell out. Okay. Anyway, that's right, the Bren has a buffer tube assembly. This is carried over into modern assault weapons such as the AR-15 platform. This is a very integral part of those modern assault weapons because it reduces recoil. It makes the gun far more controllable and accurate and fully automatic. And it also is a bitch and a half to put back in. Excuse me for a minute while I pause this jump cut. So, after 10 minutes of tedious reassembly work, the buffer tube is back inside. Now, you will notice that there is a small plunger right here. This is actually the mainspring for the bolt on original open bolt weapons. And it also serves as the buffer tube, guide rod kind of thing. Anyway, that makes the recoil extremely, extremely light for such a large cartridge. It's over 186 grains. It is a beast of a cartridge, and it will kick your ass in a bolt action. In the Bren, you don't even feel it. Now, to reassemble this onto the weapon, actually no, never mind, we will do that in a second. First things first, this is your bolt. This is your op rod / bolt carrier. Now the bolt carrier and op rod assembly is actually unified on the Bren, but it's not in the same way that you would think like on the such as on the AK-47. The idea here is that the op rod is technically a separate piece from your bolt carrier, but it is pinned right here so that they are held together unless a divisional armorer comes in with the proper tool, drives out this pin, and then can take the op rod off and replace it, or can take the bolt carrier off and replace that. Your bolt fits onto the large abutment back there and simply slides forward to lock with it. And it can come backwards. The idea here again is that there is a small but very important part in here called a locking shoulder. For those of you that own an FAL, you know all about those. Basically the FAL is an upside down Bren. That's all it is. Upside down and slightly smaller. The locking, basically the bolt sits down as such, and it passes underneath the locking shoulder. Now once it passes underneath the locking shoulder, it abuts against two large lugs in the front, which push it back and straighten it out. This keeps it in an in-battery position. And you'll notice that there are two large locking lugs back here, which actually hold against the shoulder so that the force of the bullet is not going to actually cause the bolt to move back. Only the force of the op rod can make it move back. When the op rod moves back, the bolt is pulled down, thrown back underneath the locking shoulder, hits your ejector, and throws the cartridge out, and then picks up a new one and goes back into battery. So, bolt slides in, bolt and op rod slide in as such. There we go. They're seated. This is a striker. All semi-auto, or most semi-auto Brens have a striker. think there may have been a hammer-fired one made a while back. That would be very nice if there was. Now, once that is installed, the lower receiver goes into the lower set of rails inside there. There are actually two sets of rails, one for the bolt to ride on, one for your lower receiver assembly to ride on. Then a body pin connects the two halves so that you can see them like such. Now, that is your bolt, or sorry, that is your barrel lever, basically. Some people call it a barrel nut, others call it a barrel lever. Take this, take your barrel, line your lugs properly, and you slide it back in. Now, some of the astute among you, or those of you with really good vision, because even I can't see it. It's not on the video, I can't. Yes, this is your 4-position gas selector. Now, in the field, you would have a small tool that you would stick inside there. You would disconnect your barrel and move it forward, stick your tool in there, and then you would move it in one direction or another. This opens up the gas port, basically. It'll open it or close it. You would close it for the times when the Bren is operating cleaner, or it's operating with hotter ammunition. You'd open it when it's operating dirty, or when it is operating at or with a lower pressure ammunition. The reason for that is opening it allows more gas to be taken off. I'm sorry for the clock. I'm not reshooting this again. Opening it allows the more gas to be taken off. Closing it allows less gas to be taken off, which basically you're using only the amount of gas necessary to keep the weapon operating at peak efficiency. Now, when your barrel is in there, you swing your lever down and close it, and now your barrel's locked. It's not going anywhere. A note for those of you that have Brens and are having problems with getting your barrel in and out, you can actually take a little bit of sandpaper and just gently round off these lugs a tiny bit. It will help immensely. That's what I did. I do not recommend doing it too rough because you may damage the barrel threads and then you have to buy a new barrel. But yeah, just round them down a tiny bit, or you can round down the locking nut a little bit on the inside if you can reach in there, because that's the usual cause, is one of those two has threads that are far too tight. Now, put your barrel in, or sorry, put your magazine in there and you are good to go. Now, I've gotten a lot of questions. I've gotten a lot of questions asking, is the Bren select fire? Yes, it is. In original condition, a Bren has open and close, or open bolt, semi-auto, and fully automatic functioning. They used them initially with a sight that attached around here. You'll notice some of the very early Mark 1s have a dovetail right about here, and that is for use with something called a line optical sight. You can find them on eBay. They're like $4,000 a piece because there's only a couple hundred there's only a couple hundred ever made, and there's like 20 still in existence. So it's very, very rare to find a line optical sight, and it's even rarer to find a Mark 1 with the dovetail intact. Partially because IMA, International Military Antiques, destroyed at least one of those kits by building it into a non-functioning replica, which, okay, we're not going to go there. Yeah, sorry, I have my opinions on that. I'm not going to share them right now. Now, for those of you that have seen C2 Builder, you've noticed, or for those of you that have seen C2 Builder's video, you've noticed that the Mark 1 has a semi-strange flip-up rear sight that has a little drum on the top that must be turned to adjust it. Now this one has a much larger drum, a horizontal drum that you simply turn, and you'll notice that your rear sight comes up. The reasoning behind this I am entirely unsure of. where they got this idea for a design, but and there's a tiny little window back here that allows you to see the numbers, but again, my webcam is shit, so I can't really show that to you. Promise I will fix that soon enough, so I get some good money coming in. Anyway, that squealing is my back door closing because some people are rude. Anyway, the Mark 1 also has, sorry about this, this gun is massive and turning it requires the effort of at least 3 people. It has a folding charging handle right here. Sorry, I'm doing this. There we go. Notice that it folds out and then the weapon can be charged. Sometimes the weapon does not want to cooperate. More about that later. Anyway, yes. That is the basic difference in the receiver area between the Mark 1 and the Mark 2. The Mark 1 also has an adjustable bipod, as you will notice. The legs can come all the way down here, which makes it, not sure why you'd want to do something like that, but there you go. They're meant to be individually adjustable so that you can do that for rough terrain. Basically, the Mark II deleted that feature because it was deemed to be frivolous, and I kind of agree with them on that one. The original Mark I also had a different style stock. There was a major cheek swell right about here that we call the humpback, and underneath here was an attachment point for a second thing that looked kind of like the barrel handle, but it was a handle for your left hand so that you could turn the Bren easily. Those both got deleted. They had a second butt plate that folded over the top one called a butt strap. And if you ask anyone that owns an original M14, they'll tell you all about those things and how useless they are. The idea is that you can put that over your shoulder and the gun will basically hold itself to your shoulder so that you don't have to exhaust your arms by swinging it around while holding it. In other words, it's something really just useless that they put on there. They thought it was a good idea though. And also, I should mention, before I go, the Bren does in fact have attachment points for a tripod. A lot of people have been saying that the MG42 is a better gun because it can attach to a tripod. First off, MG42 to Bren is apples to oranges, okay? Gonna put that right out there. Second off, the Bren does have a tripod attachment. You can see the first part, the rear part is here, the front part is right here. You would swing a little lever down as such, you push it out, and then you would attach your tripod in there and you'd close this, and then you'd attach it in the rear and close that, and then you're on a tripod. Now the tripods were not deployed heavily during the war because they really weren't that useful. The British really just didn't have a purpose for them because they already had Vickers and Maxim heavy machine guns, which were on tripods already, so there was no point. Otherwise, yes, this is pretty much the Mark I. It's pretty much all there is to know about it. At least all I know about it. I didn't really go into the history of these very much because I'm not terribly familiar with them. I do know that the Mark I-M, which is what you're looking at, was designed after Dunkirk. It was designed to use up some Mark I receivers that they were already producing and to basically fit them up with Mark II parts and get them back into battle as soon as possible. Now this one was actually one of the purpose-made Mark I-Ms, and I'm not sure exactly why they did that, but this was made in 1943, which was after the Mark II was already accepted for production and had gone into production. So we're just going to assume that the British had their reasons, and I'm sure that they had nothing at all to do with tea and crumpets, because yes, I am going to make a crappy British joke about it. Anyway, this is Sergei Mosin signing off. If I can Get my mouse to work. Hang on. There we go.